I'm Lindsay Overmyer. I'm the Ramsey County Ag Agent, and today I'm doing the pests that can impact the bottom line in the next 10 years. And Tracy will keep me on time. That's our most bit. Okay. So, going back from media perspective, I like to have a perspective of how to think through things. So, going back to 2001. Pulled up USDA Cropscape, and we have spring wheat as our #1, so that's all our tan. We then have canola, sunflowers, soybeans, so forth. Okay, 2001. Now let's see, what does 2021 look like? We have a lot more green. So we have green as soybeans, we have our spring wheat, and then we have our corn and our canola. Our corn was way down here on acreage, so it's increased a ton. Obviously, we know that. So how does our landscape, our landscape is changing. So what will 2031 look like? Well, we have more acres of soybeans. What is, it's going to change. We obviously know that. What will a typical crop rotation be at this point? We know that crop rotation is a critical aspect in managing pests. So how can we leverage our crop rotation to manage the pests that we could be expecting? We all know that climate impacts what pests do, how crops grow. So again, will we be more drier or wet? That's going to impact of what we will see in our pests. Okay, so the crops that I chose to focus on today, right, canola, small grains. And to give you a background of how I'm going to proceed through this, I'm categorizing pests as in we have current, they're either the pest is known, yet it's still going to continue to impact us, versus it's emerging, so if the pest is relatively new, or it's going to be moving in our direction. Come on, grab a seat. So we're going to cover kind of the distribution, if it's an emerging pest, that biology, and the management of what can be done. So for canola, my top 4, this is kind of my perspective as well as talking to specialists, and anybody could have different justifications of different reasons of what they want to choose. But we're going to still have white mold. That's going to be an issue. We all know that it also affects our soybeans, our dry beans, our sunflowers. So again, our crop rotation is the biggest thing on that aspect for management, as well as timely foliar fungicide applications. And I do want to note that we do have some really good new research from our Carrington Research Center. So snap that QR code. We have more information on droplet size, the timing, efficacy, and row spacing of dry beans, as well as soybeans. But I think we have some great resources right here, so check that out. Flea beetles, they're always here. They're always just terrorizing us, right? So we got some points from Janet Knodel. We have 2 different flea beetles. We have the stripe, which is obviously this one right here, and we have the crucifer flea beetle right here. Management pieces here from Janet is we need to know what is the dominant species that is impacting your field. So we have the striped flea beetles. They're slowly increasing in North Dakota due to that tolerance or resistance of our standard insecticidal treatment, so our neonics. And that's again from Janet. She also says our most efficacious and economic risk efficient strategies is our pre-mixes of our neonics. So that's our newer mode of action, as well as our eutanoloids. So we have our group 28 and our 4D. We will have Anita talking about flea beetles a little bit more at our 1:30 session, as well as we have our roundtable discussion of canola production at 2. So I'm gonna kind of keep going a little fast through some of these because these will be talked a little bit more in detail. All right, canola, we have club root. It was first identified in Cavalier in 2013. This is different. It's not a fungus, not a virus. It is a soil-borne organism, and that colonizes the roots, and then it's compromising our nutrient uptake. How? Since it's more emerging, it could be in Ramsey County, don't really know. I'm sure it's expanding, but we're not necessarily looking for it. So what do we need to look for? We have our signs. We're having wilting, stunting, a thin stand, and it's a premature death. So a field could look like this. We go in that field, we should then further look at the roots. We need to dig them up. So we could have swollen root tissues or galls right here. And they're called galls, and they're resembling clubs. So that's why it's called a club root. So be on the lookout for this, as it's probably continuously spreading. With it being soil-borne, it can move by soil, so tractors, any equipment. You know, if we're starting to see some issues on the side of the field, or entrance of the field, maybe we want to dig up some canola plants.
Your turns to radishes are also brassicas.
Yeah, there's a lot to fit into this presentation. So, our management, I want to highlight, we do have our extension bulletin here as right here, and our management is a 6-year rotation to have a non-host crop, another non-host, a club root resistant hybrid, and then another one with a different resistant gene, a non-host, and then a non-host. So for more information, see this. Also, Venkat at Langdon Research Center has great material on club root. All right, verticulum stripe disease. It was first discovered in Canada in 2014, and talking to other crop consultants, 2020 here in Ramsey County. We have hot and dry conditions that it likes. So again, this is one on the move, so we need to be able to tell what's going on in the field. We have signs. So signs are what? Okay, yeah, I got that right. So signs are kind of just that general, like, I'm not feeling well today. But the symptom would be your green snot coming out of your nose. So for instance, our signs are just our leaf chlorosis, early ripening, it's stunting, shredding of the stem. The stems don't look so good there. And the symptom is actually looking at these black stripes, and which is on you're slicing that stem open or on the edges there, you'll see the myfloroscia, and that's actually what the pathogen is. Moving right along. So we have corn, crosses wilt, and we'll have tar spot. So this, and then this picture, I took that this year. I think another thing we have is blackbirds just really eating corn this year. We don't have as many sunflowers, right? That has changed in our crop rotation. So blackbirds could be a continuous pest. But this year we definitely have some gosses wilt. As you're driving early late fall, you can see on the side there's some pathogens hitting our corn. We need to be on the forefront to know exactly what those are, to figure out what hybrid selection we're wanting to go. So we have gosses wilt. It's a bacterial pathogen. It was first discovered in Nebraska. It's very neat because I'm a geek and I like pathology. It's a gram-negative pathogen, which is quite different than the rest. Have it in North Dakota. When did it discover in North Dakota? I can't remember offhand, but in 2020, there's survey, and 65% of the fields scouted in North Dakota had gosses wilt. So since it's a pathogen, since it's a bacteria, it means basically some kind of injury to get into the plant. It's not like a fungus who has a penetration peg that can actually just get into the plant. So if we have wind, do we have wind in North Dakota?
No.
No? Oh, okay. If we have hail, Different aspects of those weather, or, if that wind is blowing and sandblast, those are the different aspects that's gonna have that point of entry for this pathogen. So we need 80 degrees for disease development. And what you're gonna see here is, okay, so our symptoms, we have a leaf blight and plant is kind of just wilting overall. But then when we really get down into it, we have, since it's a bacteria, we will have classical sign, well, still it's a symptom, is these freckling here on the lesion. But we also have this water soaking that you can really tell, maybe hard to see on the screen, but it looks a little different between right here to right here. So those are the two different things to definitely look at for Goss's wilt. For management, our hybrid selection is critical. I think Pioneer back in the day had issues with their they weren't breeding specifically for Goss's wilt, but things have changed a lot over the years. So hybrid selection is still very important. A lot of these diseases are in the residue. So how do we manage our residue if it's just blowing from one neighbor to the next neighbor, and now we have Goss's wilt? Oh, yay! Now we have more weeds. So try to manage that as best as we can. Our crop rotation, again, we want to select those different hybrids, but also then think about not corn after corn, because that causes way more issues. Go to Nebraska, you have rootworm. Please rotate the crops. Okay. Tar spot. It's coming. This is an interesting pathogen as, okay, it's a fungal pathogen. It was first discovered in Illinois and Indiana. And usually pathogens are moving west, but move east, but this is moving more west. So strange a little bit on this aspect. More, you need to talk to a corn pathologist on that aspect. On this one, we can see, there we go, I'm just writing, what are the conducive conditions? We like relatively high humidity and prolonged leaf wetness. I have had prolonged leaf wetness on the slide, so that's just how long it can continuously be wet on the leaf. If that's dew, if that's other humidity throughout the day, that crop canopy really changes up what that environment will be for that pathogen. Preliminary data has suggested that we have 30 bushels per acre yield loss. And what is the management at this point? Again, residue. It's in the residue, crop rotation, say that again. And we want to avoid susceptible hybrids. I'm not the seed person yet, so definitely talk to your seed dealers to know that what varieties you're getting for corn. Goss's wilt, tar spot, what is it? Good resistance or tolerance. So we have this speckling on the leaf. It's different from Goss's wilt. We don't have that water soaking happening here. And on Twitter, there's been a lot of talk about tar spot, and it's like, oh, it's just bird poop. So bird poop, scrape it off the leaf. But this, you can't scrape these little things off the leaf. So that is your tar spot. Moving on to soybean. Nasty is coming. All right, so we got soybean, it's this nematode. Can't remember when it first came to North Dakota, but it came to the United States, I think, in the 80s and has been continuously making its way. And how this is measured, let's see. So you can't necessarily, so this is a parasitic worm. You can't necessarily see exactly what's happening under the soil. So that's where we got to take the soil test. So if we are in the fall and you hear that, come get a bag for soybean cyst nematode sampling, come to our office. It's free of charge. So the point of that is to just get a monitor how much of these eggs are in the soil. So where we're at right now, obviously we have more soybeans grown in the southeast. So we have higher numbers of eggs, and it's per 100 cc of soil. So it's basically like a shot glass of soil out there looking at the eggs in. Let me tell you, trying to dissect a little cyst is really fun. It's complicated, takes skill and hands. Did that in my class before. So right now, Ramsey County, we have a lot of black, so that's group 0, gray 50 to 200. Obviously up here we have 200 to about 20,000. So lots more happening. So if this is this tiny, how can it travel? Equipment, yay, soil. Great, another one on the soil. So actively expanding, it's infecting soybean and dry bean. We need to know, like, talk to other specialists, but dry bean and soybean, I think there are a few different resistant genes, and I think there's less in dry bean, but again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. It's a top yield limiting pest, $1 billion annually. Hot and dry conditions, and you don't have to have above ground symptoms until it's bad. So Dr. Sam Markell provides so looks like a nice field, and then you get some other little spots in there. So go check those areas, do some soil sampling. So know your numbers. Again, here's another QR code. They're free, come on in. It's worth knowing what your numbers are. Because that's the only way you can really know. All right. Sudden death syndrome. Again, we have another soil-borne root rot pathogen. We have a progression of North Dakota. We had it in 18 here, and in Cavalier 2020. Our conducive conditions is cool and wet. And really what we're seeing of this is producing a toxin. And this toxin is then producing these foliar symptoms that we're seeing. So we can have it start like this, further along, more looking at the plant. And then to distinguish it between other pathogens, you'll need to kind of open and cut the stem, see what is looking, because that also could then look like charcoal rot as well. So sudden death syndrome, and for our management, we need to look at our roots will confirm our diagnosis. It's talk to plant pathologists, but we have our SCN and SDS. So our soybean cyst nematode and sudden death syndrome can kind of usually be together. It's complex, kind of a fun complex to understand. Resistance is available, and we have seed treatments also becoming more available. You can see there on the screen. And again, this is from Dr. Sam Markell. All right. Oh, soybean gall midge, insect. This is kind of special, but not special to me. This is first started in Nebraska, and I was down there during grad school, and it's like, holy crap, is hitting the fan. What is this new thing impacting our soybean fields on the edges? So it took a while to get ID, but it is a Cecidium ID, and it's gall midges or gall gnats. So we do have finally our identification, and that's actually coming from Jeff Tanner's. The specialist guy is overseas. So it's taken a lot of work to get that identified. The adult fly is super tiny, 1/8 of an inch. We have our black and white banding on the legs that help to identify it, and molted wings. Currently, our host is obviously soybeans, and that's usually starting at the edge. Your crop rotation again matters for this pest. So if you had soybeans 1 year and then you grew, so it's like that following year on a nearby field. There's more information in our, I don't have that up there, in our NDSU extension publication. Our new host for 2022, we have dry-beans, including in this, so this is great stuff, right? Again, this information is all from Dr. Janet Knopf. So I'm sure she'll be talking about this throughout the winter more because, are we on it? Okay, so I don't know the last time I talked to her, but it was over sent to Nebraska for DNA testing. Justin and Anna had a baby, and so they're still either just got it done or not. So it was found up in whatever the county is up in. Yeah, that one. So it's progressed from 2018 to get all of, I don't know what I'm doing, all of these more counties. So be on the lookout for that one on the edges of field. Obviously, currently we're pretty good, and it's sensibly confirmed here in that.
Just north of Woodland. I come from Sargent County, that's just north of Woodland.
Okay. That's not gonna be a fun test either. Okay, what do we, oh, yes, what do we look like? So we have plant characteristics, we have wilting, and like I said, it's usually on the edges. We have dark discoloration at the stem and base. There's been trying to figure out if this is also related to plant disease, so fun stuff trying to sort out for a new pest. So we have this lesion, cut it open, and you'll have these tiny orange little maggots. Okay, see this? Okay. Okay, close up. This is what we're looking at. We have about 2 generations per year. Down in Nebraska, there, colleagues who they have to get your emergence and how many generations you're having. They have to check traps every day. So a lot of research and work goes into a new test to figure this out. So good thing that Nebraska is working on this. So what do you do if you see it? What we want to do is collect more than 20 larvae and place it in a small glass vial with rubbing alcohol or ethanol. We want to label where you found it. We need to get this documented. And if you have more questions, you want to contact your local extension agent in the county or also Dr. Janet Knopf. We need to have DNA tests to confirm this. You really don't want to get into trying to identify immature larvae at that small gene. You have to have a special part for that. So DNA test, send it in. Okay. Wow, going really fast. Fusarium head blight for small grains. We all know about it. I think we were talking more about small grains. Another one we have is bacterial leaf streak. This is Xanthomonas. We have conducive conditions, which are again more prolonged periods of leaf wetness. It will look more of this stripiness on the leaf here, and then as it progresses, we'll get kind of more overall into the canopy, looking like that. Pretty unknown, right? We're living in a world that things keep changing a ton. If we look at current regulations in the United States, you know, like last year, we don't have that anymore, correct?
Well, purifies, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Lots
of words.
Florida.
We don't have that anymore, so we need to look at different insecticides to be using. Like Janet was mentioning, that diamides, the neonics. We need to be changing up our mode of action. I'm sure Brad talked about changing mode of action, crop rotation. We got to use more than just pesticides. Atrazine is also on the table, looking at if we still have that. There has been cases that it has been water quality and testing. If you attend the different pesticide trainings this year, you'll hear probably a little bit more about that in Andrew Fossison's presentation. We're living in a volatile world. Things can change from pesticides, so we need to have multiple holistic system approach of how we're going to manage these pests. Then if we look at other countries, the war on agriculture. Netherlands is shutting down 3,000 farms to meet climate goals. Things are changing. I don't think shutting down farms is bad. There's different things to think about here. If our climate still goes to, in the United States, that people want to push climate change, what will happen? Or we have North Dakota approves Bill Gates' major farmland purchase. What's going to happen here? I think we still need to be very, not just in the box, just doing what we do. We need to think, what are the aspects? What are the repercussions of regulations on agriculture? So things can change a lot. That was a lot of information really quickly. If you have questions, here's my contact information, or any of the specialists with specific aspects, crop specific questions as well. So that was on time, lots of information. So any questions? I can attempt to field them.